Hey guys, how you doing? This video I'm just going to go through some of the things that I've learned over my 20-year career playing Counter-Strike. I started playing Counter-Strike when I was about 11 or 12. I'm now 33 and it's been quite a journey. I started off playing in an internet cafe in the city with one or two of my friends. And I remember shooting like 12 people in the pistol round back when I was 12 with the USP. I was quite good at Counter-Strike. I've since dropped off and I'm absolutely horrible now. But I've learned a lot over the years playing Counter-Strike and getting to know the game over the various different forms of the game and different releases. So I thought I'd just create this video to kind of share my opinion and viewpoint when it comes to how to improve at the game. So let's get into it. I mean, Counter-Strike is a game of reflexes and intelligence when it comes down to it. The main point of how you win is if your crosshair, if you're able to shoot the enemy pretty much, if you're able to shoot the enemy before they shoot you. That's what it comes down to. In any kind of situation that you're thinking, like there's different situations where you need to stall, or where you need to stay alive, or where you need to do certain roles in the team. But the main role is shooting people, because if you always shoot the other person before they shoot you, you're going to win at Counter-Strike no matter what happens. So that's the best way of thinking about it from a gameplay perspective, is you want to be faster and you want to be more intelligent so you can outmaneuver your opponent and get your crosshair on them before they get their crosshair on you. I mean, it sounds simple, but there's actually a lot more to it than meets the eye. Okay, so let's go through the different roles that there are in Counter-Strike and how you get better at those individual roles. Okay, so there's the entry fragger. Now, the entry fragger is the guy that makes entry frags into the bomb site so that your team can plant the bomb and win the match. So what happens is you want to get good at being the first person to get your reflexes need to be like on point, and your spray needs to be on point. You need to have a favorite weapon, and you need to practice doing like 180 shots and just generally being good at reflexes and knowing which part of the map that your opponents are going to be weakest in for you to make an entry frag. So, I mean, if on one side of the map you're doing really well and you're getting entry frags all the time, and then suddenly you realize, hey, they're going to have money this round, and I've been fragging on them over and over and over again, I think it's probably a good idea to hit up the other bomb site, because they're going to be less prepared for an entry frag. Who knows what they're doing? They're going to have less kills on the board, or they're going to be less prepared for a straight up entry because they haven't been being entered on, and they could be unprepared. So you always want to be thinking about how your opponent is playing the game, which positions they were in, what they're trying to do to counter your aggressive style, and whether or not you need to hang off, or whether or not pushing at the start of the round is the best situation. So some entry fraggers like pushing spots from the start of the round and just getting to a spot based on where you spawn. So if you spawn over in one direction, you run off in that direction and you try and get an entry frag that way, just being the quickest man there. Now that can work to some extent, but the best way to support an entry fragger and to play the entry fragger is to actually have your team flash you in and to wait off against good players. It's better to wait off and get flashed in properly and pick your moments, pick your timing, rather than just running out at the start of the round in the area that you're closest to. So the entry fragger takes a little bit more thought than people kind of give it credit for, because you've got to be in a position where you can take advantage of your opponent's weaknesses and do that the most readily out of anyone else in your team. And it's a big responsibility being the entry fragger. You can have days where you do really well, and you can have days where you have like 3 for 13 because you're just not getting your entry frags and stuff isn't working out. And there's a lot of pressure that goes on the entry fragger to perform. So once the entry frag goes down, a lot of confidence is lost from the team for that round, because you're already in a 5v4, and stuff generally on average doesn't go as well than if your entry fragger runs in and gets 2 frags and takes the bomb site. So entry frag is a cool position, but it's one for someone who knows what they're doing to the extent where they can control their emotions. They're not affected by their emotions. They're not affected by team speak, and they just do their role and know how to do it well. That's the best person is someone with good reflexes, who's good at sport, and a good body. All right, so let's get on to another role. Let's go with the AWPer this time. The AWPer role is the kind of role that everyone doesn't like to take, because the AWPer has the responsibility that everyone thinks they know how to AWP, or everyone has AWP before and they enjoy using that one click, and anyone can do it, right? So, people feel like they're going to be judged when they AWP. They feel like that people are going to view their style negatively, and that they will end up feeling less confident about the way that they play because of the commentary of other people on their team. They feel like other people would do a better job because they simply don't want to do it and they're scared. AWPing is all about flick reflexes and footwork. So you want to be in the best position to either be watching an angle or know where someone is behind the angle and do and peek them with the advantage of peeking. So AWPers, they are generally pretty smart. They know a lot about game sense, and they know they remember who on the team is their opposing AWPer, and they often look to avoid the AWPer on the other team and try and get as many kills as they can without actually having to face off against the AWPer. So the best situation for an AWPer is to get on a bomb site, hold down the bomb site, and have the other opposing AWPer on the other side of the map. So they have to push an angle that our hero AWPer is holding in order to take the bomb site. That's the best situation for an AWPer. So entry fragger comes in, gets the entry on the site, the rest of the team comes in, the AWPer holds down the bomb site, and then the bomb gets planted and the other team doesn't have a chance because you've got a one-click gun on the other team that's just holding angles. So it's a lot more of an advantage to hold an angle than it is to try and take an angle off an AWPer. So if you've got player A who's watching the corner and player B who's coming around the corner, player B is always going to be at a disadvantage. In Counter-Strike, when you come around the corner, your body comes around the corner first. Your head doesn't come around the corner, and your head is the viewpoint from where you're looking. So they can see your body and know that you're coming before you even know that they're there. So that's an important lesson to take away from Counter-Strike, is that perception versus reality is often quite different. You may be able to be seen, but you can't see your enemy. So with AWPing specifically, it's good to get good at flick shots. Never change your sensitivity. Always move your mouse and shoot in the same action. Never aim. Once you start aiming, you've got no idea. This is the best AWPers use flick shots and muscle memory, and they don't aim. They just flick using muscle memory knowing that their crosshair is going to be in the approximate position it needs to be when they fire the rifle. It's not about aiming. It's about precision, muscle memory, and flick shots without aiming. So, what else can I talk about AWPs? Powerful gun, they shoot through doors. So, with shooting through doors, like on Dust 2, people get pretty, pumped up when they see someone shooting through the mid double doors. I once hit a double headshot and then another headshot through double doors. So I killed 2 people with 1 bullet, and then another. This wasn't in the screen, it was in pub, but that was some of the best gameplay of my life. Like, I hit a double headshot and then I killed another one, so I hit 3 through the doors within a matter of like 5 seconds. So I know how to aim through doors. Is you always want to flick, and you always want to aim a little bit further than you think that they were going to be, because they travel a little bit faster in real life. So once you flicked, you've got to make an account for the fact that you have flicked, and it takes a little split second for you to actually move where you think they were, so they're going to be a little bit further than you think that they were nearly every time. So always flick that little bit further ahead of where you think that they were before taking the shot, and you'll be pleasantly surprised when you start hitting more flick shots through doors. When it comes to holding close angles with the AWP, you always want to go for body shots. You don't want to go for headshots. You only really go for headshots with the AWP when you're flicking through doors, or when it's just an easy shot and you know you can get the headshot, or they're standing still and you flick to them and you happen to get their head. With the AWP, it's not about headshots, it's about body shots, because you're getting a much bigger area to be able to aim at that still does 100 plus damage and will take out your opponent. So you want to be aiming for like the torso area, and if they're crouching, you want to be aiming for just below the neck, and you get the best results that way. Alright, so let's get on to the Lurker. The Lurker is pretty interesting. I played Lurker for a little while. What you do is you get into a position where you know that your opponents are likely to push if the opposing bomb site has been collected by your team. So if a team is pushing a site on Dust 2, you want to be in the tunnels area for Dust 2, in the dark tunnels area, because they could push tunnels, they could push mid. You're locking down those areas, and because your team is pushing the bomb site, you know that there's a high likelihood that you're going to get an advantage play on someone who's pushing an angle that you're holding. So it's pretty much as simple as that. If your team is going for a play, go to the opposite bomb site and hold just outside where they could be pushing, or hold an angle that you can push once you know the rotators have come off, or be the not delay, the distraction that your team needs you to be. So if they plan on pushing a certain bomb site, you go to the other bomb site and you make as much noise as you possibly can, and maybe even push. But the best way of doing it is to get to a position that you can hold, make a lot of noise, and use a lot of flashes and grenades and utility, and then start pushing behind your enemies once they have rotated through their section of the map to the other bomb site. So you always want to be behind the enemy or in front of the enemy when they're pushing. That's the best way to play a Lurker. And obviously, you want to be able to get to the bomb site before the bomb goes off on most occasions, so that you can kill the diffuser if they happen to kill your entire team and get around there and defuse the bomb. And it's always handy if you're behind your opponents when you're doing that, because they don't know you're coming from behind. Or if you've held an angle, then you can kill those rotators, then get back to where you need to be in time. You don't need to be like on the opposite bomb site or somewhere stupid. Okay, so what are some other roles? We've done the AWPer, the entry fragger, the lurker, support. Okay, so support is a role that is suited to people who like winning, because support is one of the most important roles in Counter-Strike. It's up there along with the entry fragger and the AWPer, in my opinion, because it makes these players that do so much damage that much more effective and that much easier to do their job, right? So support players are always there for their team to die for them, to get kills if they miss, to provide support in moments where they need an extra man there, to cover angles that are boring angles that they're probably not going to come around, but if they do, we need someone there, and just to generally be the backbone of the team that's always positive, that always works hard, that always has a good KD, and that is just reliable. Yeah, supportive players. A lot of it's about personality with a supportive player, because they're not doing the fun stuff. They're not getting the accolades. They're not getting the or the fame generally. They're just the ones sitting in the back flashing and making sure people do their job right. In-game leader. All right, the in-game leader should be a person that people respect. They should have a lot of respect for other people as well. They should cut to the chase, see through the bullshit. They should be able to tell players how it is, and for that to be right. They need to remove their own personality from the game and how they feel about the game, and just see things for what they are and how they're working, what doesn't work, what does. And just generally they need to be pretty solid. Like they need to be positive. They need to be a good fragger. They need to be able to just command respect from the team. So if something needs to be done, it gets done. If people need to go to practice, they go to practice. That kind of thing. Okay, coach. Coaches, not too experienced with this, but coaches are generally, they know all the plays. They know all the counter plays. They just know how to get ahead by talking to the team, and they know their players and they know their plays. So that's all the different roles in Counter-Strike. I'm going to just talk generally for a bit. Now let's talk about peeking. All right, so when is an advantage to peek? Okay, so it's an advantage to peek when your enemy's back is turned. When your enemy is turning around looking at someone because they're not walking. When your enemy is reloading. When your enemy isn't going to hit you with a shot and you're going to hit them first. When you can get a shot off without seeing them and them seeing you. Or when you generally have the advantage and the players are lining up for you to kill. Now, when is it not an advantage to peek? When the angle that you're peeking from is being watched by a player that can hit shots. When it's being watched by generally any player, you don't want to peek. And you don't want to peek if you've got the bomb planted and there's people taking the site. You want to delay and get them to come around angles so you can shoot them first. You know, I've danced around in sites, like around poles and things, for 5-6 seconds just to get that extra bit of time to get the bomb to go off. So that's important to note. What are some other things about the game that I've learnt? Okay, it's when you get a kill, not always the best idea to keep on pushing. Sometimes it's better to, especially against good players, just to back off, not to keep on pushing the issue with teams, especially good teams, because they will always be looking to get those trades. And if you get a frag, you can guarantee that, you know, the trade's coming because they know you're there and they know that you could be pushing from that angle. So it's best just to back off unless you went for a multi-kill and you got a multi-kill and you've got 4 kills already and there's no way that they're going to win. So you can happily go for the 5th frag. That's one of the only situations where I can think of where it is good to push to get multiple frags. Generally, you want to be breaking the play down into 1-on-1s so that you have the best opportunity of taking out your opponents 1 by 1 by 1 by 1 by 1. So there's never a 2-on-1. So when you shoot one, the other one shoots you. That kind of thing. Waiting. That's another important thing in Counter-Strike. Is just sitting there and waiting for noise. Waiting for your enemies to use all their utility, waiting for them to make a mistake, waiting for them to come around the corner, waiting for the bomb to be planted, waiting for rotates, waiting. Waiting is a huge element of Counter-Strike that can open so many doors for you if you know how to wait properly. You know, you get a kill, you wait, you fall back, you hear someone, you walk up to where they are, so when they come around you can shoot them. You know, like there's just a lot of different ways that you can wait and move very small movements with your feet, so you're in the best position to get the frag because you've waited and because you know where your enemy is. I mean, everyone knows footsteps and things is a huge deal in Counter-Strike. You need to know where your opponent is by listening to them walking. But people don't realize how big a deal waiting is. Like, you see pros to sit there for like 45 seconds sometimes just standing there because they know they've got to wait there. Another thing that's important is crosshair positioning. All right, you don't want to be looking at the ground all the time. You want your crosshair to be in the position it needs to be in if someone comes around so you can shoot them. You know, you need to work out what your reaction time is for someone coming around the corner straight away and you're shooting them in the head. You need to get good at just using one bullet to take people's heads off just as they come around the corner, because it's such a powerful weapon. Like, you see them coming, you shoot one bullet, the head's gone. You can take multiple people out that way and get a team down if you get really good at it. A lot of Counter-Strike is rinsing and repeating, doing what feels right, repeating it and getting really good at it and doing it over and over again and building your confidence up in that. Counter-Strike is about confidence. It's about asserting your dominance over other players who may not be as highly reflexed or have as much intelligence as you. And it's about believing that you can do it. If you don't believe that you can do it, then generally you're not going to be doing it. All right, so just stay positive. Keep working on your game. Do a lot of research into the game as well. Look up the flashes and things that you need and take advice off as many different players as you can, and you'll make it. Good luck.